Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. Yet another installment, and this one is entitled Just Keep Driving It. It's fine. This one, once again, involves the Crusher, my mother. There was a time where I don't remember full details on it. This one is much quicker compared to the other two I told on this car. There was a time where she had to go to a doctor's appointment. Don't know what kind of doctor, it's inconsequential to the story. Well, anyway, she claimed she was about 3 blocks. Now, this 3 blocks deal, I think people are stretching the truth here, but 3 blocks from her destination. And there was road construction in that area. She claims that she ran over something and got to her destination fine. Nothing was wrong. Went in and saw the doctor. Came out sometime later and got in the car and started it up and put it in drive, and it kind of didn't want to go. Didn't want to go at all. So I'm going to fast forward the story in order to rewind for a second. You'll understand why in a second here. That car was always kept garaged. In fact, to this day, it's still garaged for the most part. She got back in the car and drove it home. I used to walk to school, so I was walking home, and I saw the car parked in front of the house on the street. That immediately was a red flag, because that car was never on the street, it was in the garage. Not even in the driveway, like if we had to stop home for something and go out again, it was never even in the damn driveway. It was in the garage. So seeing it on the street and no other car in the garage or the driveway, there was something wrong. And as I walked by the car to go up the walkway to the house, front of the car was like over here, and I looked down and I saw red stuff. That was transmission fluid, folks. This obstacle in the road that she drove over punctured the transmission pan. She neglected to tell how she didn't notice a huge puddle of red shit under the car and on the curb and probably all over the tire and everything else where she was parked. I asked her what was wrong with the car, and she said it doesn't go. Basically, it had the same sort of problem that old Clanky had, except it was because it lost its fluid. And the car was revving at like 4,000 or 5,000 RPM and going about 10 miles an hour. And maybe she was 8 miles from home and decided to drive it the 8 miles. We're talking world-class Darwin Awards of being that fucking brilliant upstairs. I mean, that fucking brilliant. Obviously, there is a problem with the car. And you should remember that you ran over something. In fact, she did, because she said that. Well, my dad decided that he was going to have a look at it. And I think it waited for a couple days. The weekend came, he was off, and he decided to take a look at it. He priced out a new transmission pan, but it was going to be too expensive. So he decided to patch the hole, and he did that using 2-part epoxy. That epoxy is still on the car to this day. I was in high school at some time, so this is at least 20 years that that's been holding. that epoxy has been holding. Yes, that's correct. The pan was not replaced when the transmission was rebuilt. The story goes as such that we basically changed the filter in there and refilled it with fresh fluid. And I think we put a bottle of Lucas transmission fluid stuff in, and it actually worked for some time. It went for a number of months, and it drove and it did its thing, but then it started getting bad, and it got worse and worse and worse, and then the clutches were slipping. It's automatic, so the bands, or whatever you want to call it, were slipping, and it didn't want to shift properly. You know, all kinds of really bad fucking news. The car basically didn't want to go anymore, and this was around Thanksgiving of, I don't remember exactly what year, but we used to go to my uncle's house in New Jersey for the family get-together for Thanksgiving, and we ended up taking my old Chevy because there was something with my dad's car that was wrong at the time, which was an 87 Nissan Sentra. I don't remember what exactly was wrong. It wasn't that it wasn't drivable, but we also had to take an extra person. We had 6 people to sit in a 5-seater car, and we did it. I was obviously a lot skinnier then, and I sat between my dad and my sister in the front on top of the center console, which was kind of a small cup and a larger bin right behind it, and a molded plastic piece. We put a pillow over that, and that's where I sat, and we drove into New Jersey with 6 passengers in a 5-passenger car, no seatbelt. That's how it was. So we had to take that car. We made it. The check engine light on that car actually came on at the time and stayed on ever since, until it finally burned out one day. And that was it. We don't know what the deal was or why. The engine wouldn't, the computer wouldn't really read out a code that meant anything, nor did we pursue it. It seemed to still drive fine, so that's what it was. Anyways, so we did that, and sometime after Thanksgiving, no, it was then like about January, and the transmission was really, January, February was starting to really crap out in that. So my dad brought the car to Toyota, and at the time, Toyota would still rebuild the transmissions in shop. And he spoke to the guy who was like the transmission specialist or something like that. He was of another country, I don't remember what. His name was Indar, I-N-D-A-R. Why I remember these details, I don't know. Indar rebuilt this transmission from the ground up. It got pretty much a new everything. Oh, and we found that when my dad and I looked at it and we took the pan off, the valve body, which is the thing that has valves in it that, or solenoid shifts, or I don't know exactly how it works. You can look it up on Wikipedia. The valve body has this like hatched area on the bottom like this, and that is a solid fucking piece of metal. There was not only a gash in that, but a dent. And I remember my dad looking at me and said, this car didn't just hit something on the ground, it went airborne. Well, my mother never told any further details. Anyway, it went to Indar, and Indar rebuilt it. At the same time, there was a problem with the exhaust system where it got really loud. Unrelated to that, it was just going at the time. And we also got that fixed maybe right before or right after that, probably right after that. And I remember I was either of driving age or had my permit. We had a couple of books that had to go back to the library. And my mother said, yeah, take the car. Whether or not I had a license or not, we were willing to take that chance. The library was really very close by, and weren't really going to be any cops stopping me. And I got in that car, and I said, holy shit, it fucking feels like brand new. It was quiet. The shifts were smooth as fucking silk. And I don't remember any other full details about the story except that Indar did a smashing job on that. excellent, excellent, excellent job. And then I think Toyota stopped rebuilding them, or he lost his job, or moved to another repair place, or I don't know what the details were. But anyway, that was that. The once and done with Indar, rebuilding the transmission. So that gets back to the title of the story. You know there's something wrong with the car, and that's why I say, just keep driving it. It's fine. You ever see cars that maybe you got to a parking lot at a store, and you get out of the car and you had to park far away, so you're walking up there and a car rounds the corner and they got one of them plastic things in the front and it's scraping on the ground. That's the kind of car I just say, just keep driving it. It's fine too. So that's the deal. Hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.